Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday Tic Talk. It is. Sorry, my audio has just played up there. I could hear myself twice. I've got YouTube open in the background. Guys, welcome to the Tuesday Tic Talk. It is the Jungle Gyms podcast. And we've been off for, I think, about 6 weeks, guys. We took a wee bit of time out. Obviously, after last season, it was a great high to the end of the season. I don't think anybody can deny the buzz that we all felt in that last kind of week or so. But that was a season that really took it out of some of us. So it was good to take a few weeks off. And then naturally holidays happen. People are away. The World Cup was on this year. So we took a wee bit of an extended break. But we're back week to week. We'll be here. We'll be bringing our lovely insight and passionate views on all things Celtic and trying to keep it as positive as we can, which is slightly another reason why we didn't show back up too soon, because there wasn't much to be positive about. But we may be onto something tonight. Gavin and James, we have both of you in the house with me tonight. How are you both doing? Gavin, we'll take you at the start because you're at the top next to me. How's your summer? How's your holidays, your World Cup? What did you get up to?
I've just went back to work today after having 2 weeks off. And fortunately, the weather was obviously glorious. But the summer, I can't complain. It's been about 5 weeks of a World Cup that's just concluded. We've got a Catholic Prime Minister in the door, which is
first ever.
And
one that he's Scotland.
And all of that time, Celtic have only brought in one new face, I believe. So there's no surprises there. But I think one of the reasons that we've probably not done a Jungle Gyms episode during this pre-season is the fact that, well, for me anyway, the negativity is just energy sapping, but you can only hold off so far. And we might be excited about some new faces joining us, but if we're being honest, they've not yet been pictured wearing a Celtic top. So until that happens, I'm going to try and keep my powder dry. But yeah, I'm glad to get back with you guys and see the comments for the viewers. It's good to be back, despite the fact that there's not a lot of positivity to talk about.
There isn't, unfortunately. I was trying to do today's kind of 5-point bullet point on what we could talk about. And we were really struggling. We're still struggling, to be honest, to be frank about it. But probably in the last 2 or 3 hours, I think the rumours have started to ramp up a little bit. So potentially some names we can discuss and get excited about over the course of the next few days in this week, and hopefully get a few of them over the line. James, how you doing, pal? How's your summer holidays? Have you been anywhere?
I'm just home, so yeah, it was. I actually got to watch the World Cup in the same time zone, so it was really good. It was really good. The weather was barbarically warm. It was a good summer, but it's good to be back. It was good to be back. Obviously, with the World Cup on, it meant we all still had our football fix. There was some really good games in the World Cup. Watching England get pumped is never a bad thing.
It's absolutely not. A lot of the group chats that I'm in were quite paranoid leading into the last couple of rounds, kind of who's going to do it, who's going to be the one to knock them out. And to be honest, never in doubt for me. Argentina, maybe not the team that we expected them to be in the final game on Sunday there, but they were always going to be, I reckon they were always going to be the ones who were going to knock out England eventually. Overall, World Cup wise, let's have a wee talk about it. Just how did we find it all, guys, from Donald Trump, the whole shebang, the corruption, the red cards getting rescinded, the classic games that were played. There wasn't any. Did we all get the final that we wanted, Gavin?
Well, I always want Brazil to be in the final, but Brazil have been shite for a number of years. The main thing was that England never got to the final. Once England get put out by Argentina, once that goal went in from Lautaro Martinez, only then can I kind of relax and say whoever wins it, I'm not bothered, Spain or Argentina. I genuinely thought France were going to get to the final. Spain, fair play to them, they won it and they bossed France, but Spain are boring as fuck to watch. People might say, people might disagree with me, say that you're not a football purist if you can't appreciate that. I can appreciate it, but it's just not attractive football. It's not attacking and stuff like that. I much prefer the kind of Jurgen Klopp method over a Guardiola method. The other things that annoyed me, obviously the kind of the hydration breaks, really irritating, and probably the biggest thing was Balogun being able to play after he got the red card. I think that's just out of order. Infantino has to go. Really disappointing, because we love football, and to see the rules being broken like that, not just bent, broken, it looks like if the price is right, then FIFA are willing to do anything, which is not cool.
I'm actually hopeful, and it should happen this week, to be honest. I'm hopeful that Infantino walks away. He's surely going to get quite a lot of pressure from whatever the makeup of the FIFA organization is, be it board members or shareholders or whoever it is that makes up that organization. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of pressure, because from start to finish, even before a ball was kicked, that World Cup was riddled with corruption and bias and favoritism. Things like the Peace Prize given to Trump, the over-eccentric kind of pleasing towards the USA and Trump, especially things like was this from Somalia, the referee that didn't get in, things like Iran being kept out of the USA unless they were playing the 90 minutes of the games, which, interestingly enough, I would like to see what happens in Saudi Arabia in a few years' time. Will they treat, I know it's not Iran, but will they treat America the way that they treated Iran? Stay the fuck out of the country, and you can only come in during your 90 minutes. No, there was a lot wrong with the World Cup. There was some good games, and I'm personally glad that Spain won. 2 reasons. 1, they are my favourite international team outside of Scotland. And 2, I had a fiver on them after the first game, so I won 30 quid, and that's never a bad thing, is it? But I'm with you, Gavin. There was so much wrong, so much corruption. Things like the hydration break, not corruption itself, but it was a trial of some sorts that benefited pretty much one nation and one nation only financially. But I feel like this is going to be a World Cup that is going to see not changes in the positive way. Like, you're not going to see, like, back in the day, VAR would have been in the World Cup, and that would be like announced to the world, and everybody started taking it on board after that. I think this is going to be a World Cup where a lot of things are going to be kind of seen as, oh, better not do that again. Like, hydration break, that's going to be like you tried it, fuck it right off in the bin. I don't see that catching on one iota. By all means, have a hydration break. I understand it's hot out there, especially in different climates outside of the UK, but they don't need to be 3 minutes long. They don't even need to be regulated to be 3 minutes. It's literally, let's take a wee pause in the game here for 30 seconds while you all get a drink of water, and let's start the game again. It shouldn't be what it was. Anyway, I digest. James, yourself, how did you find the World Cup? How did you enjoy it, actually having it at a decent time of day?
McGinty, did you say you digest?
Did I?
You did, but I was far more professional. I was far more professional than Gavin there. I knew what you meant, and I was going to go with it. So the World Cup, he'll be sitting there the new, like, oh.
Should have been here.
Apparently the hydration breaks netted the World Cup £250 million in advertisements for America alone. That's the first thing. That's when you talk about corruption, that's corruption at the highest level. I like Spain. I think their midfield's outstanding. I know what you're saying about they stifle the rest of the game. I would have liked to have seen a France-Spain final, personally. I would have liked to have seen that as the final rather than the semi. But the madness after the final whistle of the final was beautiful to watch. It was like a Sunday League game that I played in a few years ago. Just absolute carnage at the final whistle. It was good to see the Celts that were there all coming back. Fit, nobody getting badly injured, to take it back to Celtic for a little bit. Yeah, I think it was I think it was a shockingly bad World Cup for things like the Somalian referee. I think some of the football was beyond brutal. I thought Norway were excellent, and they were really unlucky against England. Really unlucky against England. I think that there was some. Obviously, they were never going to win it, but Cape Verde were like a breath of fresh air. And you look at teams like that, and you think that's what Scotland should be doing. That's what we should be doing. Another side note: who were the last team to beat Spain? Scotland. Last team to beat Spain in an international.
We were, and it's a great stat to have. Was that about 2.5 years ago now?
Yeah,
but then
38 games.
Having the World Cup in your back pocket is also a good stat to have. And as you alluded to there earlier, both of you, Gavin as well at the start, though, they might not be the most exciting team to watch, and especially not as exciting as 2008 to 2012 Spain. But they are on the cusp. They're one tournament away from equaling that 2008-2012 Spain team. And although they're not exciting to watch, I was absolutely amazed by the stat that was 10 shots on target is all they faced all tournament.
Yeah.
And only one goal
I think they're brilliant.
Conceded. It's absolutely mental.
I think they're brilliant. But obviously, I was over in the, Central America at the time, so cracking stat that hit there was Brazil have been shite since they stopped becoming a predominantly Catholic country. I
saw that on the social media. Surely can't be true.
Yeah, no, there's something like 45% or 45% evangelistic Protestant now, and that's why they've lost their swagger and their samba, and that's why they're shite now.
I mean, it could be true. It could be.
Well, I've been telling everybody in work it's true.
If you remember back, Gavin, you'll know this a lot better, obviously, and we're just kind of being silly about it, but if you remember back to the great days, Neymar being your last kind of samba flair player,
yeah,
they had all that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and they were fantastic. And they were all Catholics, all loving it. Neymar, proud to be a Catholic, obviously, wears it on his sleeve. Couldn't tell you what any of them support religion-wise these days, and to be honest, it doesn't really bother me either which way, but interesting that the little things you could coincide and kind of line up to make a story. Anyway.
Oh no, I've got it fact now.
You got it fact. I'll expect to see that in about 6 months' time again, just to remind us all. But yeah, let's bring it back to Celtic then. We're in the midst of pre-season. We've got one more game to go against AC Milan this weekend, is it? I believe Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yep. I'm not sure what I'm expecting from that game, James. It's a pre-season where I've seen 2 of the 3 games so far, and I'm not impressed at all by what I'm seeing from Celtic, to be honest. A lot can be said that, we're changing the team at half-time, and there's a hell of a lot of youth players coming into the squad. You like see your Hattons, your Mercados and stuff, who clearly won't be getting any real game time come the start of the season proper. But none of the World Cup players are actually back yet. I think they're back this week. Most of them, maybe 1 or 2, are still missing. But there's players in that squad that are clearly going to be gone by the end of the window. I'm looking at your Arne Engels, who's getting game time. You're looking at Tati, probably going to be out. I'm struggling to see the positivities for the AC Milan game and what to expect from that game, because you can only imagine they're probably going to steamroll us to a degree of being a better side on paper. James, how do you see pre-season overall? 3 out of 4 games gone so far. Are you at all positive?
No, but I'm massively of the opinion that pre-season's for getting minutes and legs. The results, although you want to be seen as playing a standard a style of football, and you want to see progression and see things happening. But predominantly it's about getting minutes and legs for me, so that when the actual games start, but I'd like to see my World Cup players back. They need a rest as well. They need a break. Obviously, players getting looked at, and that worries me. Who we're going to have at the start of the season, you know, and into the up to the transfer window closing. I think AC Milan are nowhere near as good a team as they used to be. That's the first thing I'll say. I don't think they're anywhere near as good as they used to be. I've not got a ticket for the game. I'm not going on Saturday. I'm going up to Celtic Park, but we're not going into the game. I think we're going to go to the turnstile for
protesting.
Yeah, kinda. I think that it's. I think that it was good to see how empty the stadium was on Saturday. It was good to see how empty the stadium was on Saturday. And Martin O'Neill, obviously, he's sticking to a script, and he doesn't want to badmouth the board. But him coming out and saying about 25 years, it's not 25 years ago. Look at the attendance last year against Newcastle.
Exactly, 55,000 claimed, and when you look at the images and the videos, it's no ball hair away from it.
Aye. You know, you look at it against Newcastle last year, and then you look at that on Saturday. Middlesbrough, Newcastle, all right, but
it was a year to the day.
Aye.
Saturday the 18th, Saturday the 19th of July. It was a year to the day, and that was stark contrast in attendance. I mean, I'm actually surprised looking back on the Newcastle game that we had that many people actually go to it. Because you do expect pre-seasons to be a bit scarce at times. You could see the seats through the crowd sort of thing, but that at the weekend was
brutal.
I think some people were saying 12,000. I'd be absolutely surprised if we got to double digits. I don't think it was that much.
You hardly seen the main stand, but even the main stand wasn't full. So the main stand was probably about half full. There was the Middlesbrough fans in that area, and then there was like a section of I still refer to it as the jungle, I'm sorry. There's a section of the jungle.
You're on that podcast, don't worry.
And it didn't even go right. It wasn't even all the way back. It was like
no, you could still make it Celtic running on the seats. It was that scarce.
It was. When I say embarrassing, I don't mean embarrassing for us. Embarrassing for the board that's what's happened. Embarrassing for the board. And yeah, as Paddy said, you don't have to go if you don't want to go. But I think we hopefully the things we've been reading today, and that things are starting to maybe take a turn, and we're maybe heading a wee bit hopefully in the right direction.
Hopefully, and we'll get onto that more in due course. Gavin, I want to get your opinion on an aspect of pre-season that's not football related as such, but by all means, let's take a wide view of the pre-season anyway from yourself. But what do you make, Gavin, of Martin O'Neill's comments for the last few weeks? I posed to you the idea that at the end of last season, Martin O'Neill was discussing and talking about the need for a rebuild, the need for pretty much an abundance of new players and new talent to come in and refresh the place up. Many fans, ourselves included, have all talked about the need for 10, 12, maybe even as high as 15 new faces coming into the club. Obviously, we have a lot of players going out as well. As you said earlier on, we've got one new face in, and we've got 6 weeks to go in the window, which does sound like a long time to go still, more than the January window is. But we're dragging our heels with things, and Martin O'Neill's comments since the end of last season, which admittedly would be when he didn't know he was going to be the manager again, he's went from a massive rebuild to a few weeks ago needing a number of players to now, in the last few days to last week, refusing to give any quantifiable number or quantifiable kind of suggestion of how many players could come into the club. How do you see Martin O'Neill's comments in regards to where we are in pre-season with, less than 2 weeks to our game against Dundee? You're looking at UEFA qualifying games coming up as well. Do you see his comments as worrying? Are you confident that behind the scenes he's kicking up a bit of a fuss?
With his comments, you could argue it sounds like he's downsizing his ambitions. I think behind the scenes he'll maintain the high standards that he demands for the club. Maybe demands is a word that's doing heavy lifting, but that he expects from the club. He'll have a vision of what he wants his team to be for the start of the Champions League qualifier, and he's just in a very difficult position between the fans and the board, and he's the face of it. We saw this play out this time last season with Brendan Rodgers, and the questions became more and more articulated towards the recruitment, the lack of recruitment, and the frustration, and it got worse and worse and worse. And you saw Brendan was struggling to keep a lid on things, and shit really hit the fan. So I think Martin O'Neill, he's in a bit of a similar position to what Brendan Rodgers was in last season. After a high at the end of last season to now, he's just trying to manage expectations. I wouldn't read too much into him saying we need a rebuild to saying we need 3 players, X amount of players. I wouldn't read too much into it, just because it's too much negative energy for me. And as I said, I think he still maintains the high standards that he really requires for this squad. And there's been rumours that he's ready to walk if he doesn't get X, Y, and Z demands met. I don't know if that's true. I would love for a Celtic manager to call a spade, and Martin O'Neill is playing the political game here, which you probably need part of that to be a Celtic manager. Maybe Postecoglou was the closest to calling a spade, but even at that, he still had to play the game to an extent. So we're not going to get the whole truth and nothing but the truth from Martin O'Neill. This is what it is, and we're just going to have to wait and see. But it's understandable and it's acceptable to be frustrated. It's acceptable to protest, because we're seeing a repeat of last season, and we need to learn from it. They might pull it out the hat at the very end, but we said that last season. It's not impossible, but it's really fucking frustrating. And it's just, I feel for Martin O'Neill being in that position where he has to kind of placate us as fans, where at the same time he understands the reality of the ineptitude of the board. It's a difficult position for him to be in, and he just wants the best for Celtic. He doesn't have any other ulterior motive. He's not here for the money. He's got the money. He's here because he got a buzz out of last season, and he wants to continue that, and he genuinely wants the best for Celtic and Celtic's fans. So, yeah.
I'd agree with that. I'd like to hope that behind the scenes he's kicking up quite a large stink. Hello, young James. I'm just worried. I think more about the way, as you said there as well, it's this comparable kind of chat from Martin O'Neill that even Rodgers was doing last year, scaling back the expectation levels, bringing back his own kind of wishes almost, and kind of bring himself back into line. He has to publicly probably toe a line, but at the same time, is he going to just accept it, whatever the outcome is? And obviously there's the rumours and stories that maybe he's close to walking, which might be why we're seeing a flurry of activity today. Who knows, though, that will be, time will tell. But more so, Gavin, are you, I suppose it's more concern of the club rather than Martin O'Neill, are you at all convinced that lessons have been learnt from last year? Will the club finally see, right, we can't fuck Martin O'Neill over here, we realise we've got to pull the finger out?
No, like, there is probably close to 100 lessons that could be learned from last year, and one of them would be, well, I don't want to go through them all, but no, if they had learned all the lessons from last year, then we would be looking at a totally different club. We'd be having a podcast right now where we'd have clear communication about the direction that we're going in, about the changes and the directors. Would have clarity about the ownership and why it's happened like that, why they were allowed to act like that. Would have clarity about the AGM from last year. I could go on and on. No, lessons have not been learned. The basic things they're trying to do and doing it badly and procrastinating No, and the fans are still angry, man, and they're justified to be angry. So, no, lessons have not been learned.
Young James, welcome to the podcast. There is a question that needs to be asked of you. If you would like to read Paddy's message there. Cheryl Lloyd's a free agent. Would you take her? Read James bottom left.
Yep, as I said, she can play up top, and I will play in the hole.
Sadly, James, it looks like we're not going to sign Cheryl Lloyd for playing up top, but we do have Camilo Duran, who's in and is the new striker. So we'll bring you in, James, as you just came back. Trying not to bore you with the negativity that we've been doing the last 25 minutes, but how do you rate what you've seen so far, the limited that you've seen so far of the new signing Duran?
He's looked good. I think his finish at the weekend was really good, albeit it was a kind of, well, all the games have been pretty dire, but for what I've seen him so far, he has been quite impressive, and the kind of videos that I've seen as well, he seems to have a kind of a variety of finishes. It doesn't seem to just be like a target man or kind of Kyogo running in behind or whatever. He does seem to mix it up a bit. So I've been impressed so far, and hopefully he can keep it up as the real stuff starts.
That would be a good thing. I think, as older James earlier said as well about preseason, there's only so much you can take from them, but predominantly they're about getting minutes in the legs and getting people up to speed and sharp. But what I've seen from Duran so far and the limited things we have, and I do appreciate that even in the Middlesbrough game there was pretty much played at a walking pace. His goal was well taken, but the setup leading to it didn't look like anybody was like, didn't look like they were doing something spectacular to make that happen. It was almost walking football to get that goal in. But from what I have seen on, I think the best we can say, and this is trying not to do a disservice, he doesn't look shit. Like, as soon as Mvuka came into the team, or as soon as Balikwisha came into the team, you knew instantly they're fucking shit. This guy at least looks, as you say, James, he looks like he's got something about him. I can't pinpoint what his style's going to be because, as you said as well, that he's kind of doing a little bit of everything, and how he fits into the side as the season unfolds will be quite interesting. More so if we do get, obviously, other signings in and where he plays within the squad. Older James, will bring it to you in that sense of Duran, and I'll link in now the idea that we've got, 4 or 5 players that are kind of rumoured to be on the cusp. And one of those guys is your Casper Hogh, whatever you want to call his name. Now, if he's going to be playing striker, which is what you would assume, you don't suddenly drop Duran out. So can you see Duran maybe floating left, floating right, supporting him in a way?
I see him supporting. I see him supporting for the left. I think he's played left. That's the position he's played. Incidentally, Hearts are 1 down.
I was just about to say that.
Forgot they're playing.
Anyway, I can't remember where I read it, but somebody said that they seen him playing in more of a Maeda role, cutting in for the left, using his right foot, hitting strikes. So that's how I kind of seen him in my head, but with the ability to play him up front at times as well, to switch things about, because he's a different type of player for Hogh. And obviously, Osman's miss on Saturday was almost Johnny Kenny-esque. I don't know how he missed that. But I think, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of the euphoria of last season. But I think he'll come good. But I think Duran will play in for the left most of the time. That's my.
I can see a bit of movement around that. I mean, obviously, Dyson Maeda was a left winger, come a striker, come a left winger, come a striker again. And for me, I've always said he was most natural, and his best position was through the middle. He always looked the most dangerous. His last season and a half, 2 seasons, he looked like he improved as a winger, but I would still say he was much more efficient through the middle as a striker. I could probably agree with you, James, that Duran might do something similar. However, Gavin, if you were to go into the new season, with Casper Hogh, or whatever you call him, Duran and Callum Osmond as your three strikers, would you be happy?
I'd be reasonably happy, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if this boy Duran is going to be played as a winger. I heard comments from the guy who brought him over to Europe the first time, and he said that he played him mostly on the wing. He said that he's very good playing as a striker. He's got good finishing ability, but he saw him more as a winger. Since then, he's developed and maybe he's added a few more strings to his bow. So it's an interesting one to see where he sees his true position. But I think that the way that Celtic play, I wouldn't be surprised, especially under a Martin O'Neill traditional setup. I would not be surprised to see Duran playing on one of the wings, and it just depends on what if he's left-footed, then he'll probably be on the right and vice versa. But if you've got Hogh in the building, then he's going to be playing as your number 9, and Duran will be playing either side of him, I would imagine.
I'd imagine something like that, and as I said as well, I'd imagine there'll be a lot of fluidity with the front three. As we stand, you'd probably be looking at Yang on the right, potentially Duran on the left if you get Hogh in. But if we're going to see that potential for Hogh, you probably have to talk about the potential of the Egyptian boy Hassan coming in. So you could end up having Hassan on the right, Yang on the left, Hogh through the middle, Duran able to rotate on the left or through the middle, Forrest and Tanecki still there as well. So young James bring that to you as an attacking 3 options. Would that excite you for the new season? The names that I've just mentioned?
To be honest with you, obviously with Duran, I couldn't tell you anything about the rest of them. I seen Hassan obviously at the World Cup, kind of pretty much the same as everybody else. But apart from that, I know his stats with Oviedo aren't they great. I don't think he scored a goal last season. But that being said, I think we do need a full new forward line. I think guys that are there the new, like Yang is an option off the bench, I suppose so. But guys like Tanecki, Balikwisha, I think they're for the scrap people ready, in my opinion at least anyway. So I think we did need to rip the front forward line up and start again, which appears to be what we're at least kind of trying to do. And if that means that Duran needs to move out wide to facilitate Hogh or Hogh, however we're saying it, then so be it. But I can't really see guys like, as I say, Tanecki and Balikwisha getting much of a look in this season, which is scandalous to say considering there's basically £10 million there between them, and it's £10 million it's just been put down the drain on absolutely nothing. So hopefully we can revamp the forward line, and hopefully we can actually get good players in for a change. It feels as if it's been a while for we've actually signed anybody half decent, to be honest with you.
I'm almost going to say this, and I'm aware that January transfer window happened. I'm actually a bit more convinced that Martin O'Neill might be able to not necessarily spot these players, because I don't imagine he's doing that level of scouting in his older age, but whoever's doing the scouting, I imagine if Martin O'Neill's got some sort of sway on the final say of these players coming in, like he's actually getting to pick the ones that he wants from a list, then I've got hope that he actually picks the right ones. And if he's picking Hassan, and he's picked Duran so far, and he looks so far in the limited time that we've seen him like he's not shite. And obviously Casper Hogh's got his reputation for Bodo Glimt, which I know, James, you've got your reservations about people who leave Bodo Glimt and kind of how much they can kick on. But that is a front 3 that is completely new to Celtic, in the sense of not one of them's kicked a ball properly competitively for us. So you almost give them a fresh start and see how they go. And then you have to question, can Yang, Tanecki and Forrest, and I'm just choosing to ignore Balikwisha because he should be out the door completely. Can those 3 plus Osmond, can they supply enough rotation and competition to try and push each other on? Older James, would you be happy with the attacking 3 if all that was to come to fruition?
I think that forward 3 would. I think it would do all right in Scotland, right? I think this might be my seeing the world through green colour glasses, right? I believe if you gave Martin O'Neill and Derek McInnes the same team, Martin O'Neill would win the league. Right. So I look at man for man, and I think that we've got good proven players. I think that Duran looks decent. Hogh, I've just put it through ChatGPT and it's pronounced who because the GH is silent apparently. But it's just I'm going to keep saying Hogh. I'm just going to keep saying
Hogh. If the GH is silent, I have to say that's still Hogh.
Yeah, but ChatGPT says it's HUH. It's pronounced like HUH phonetically. So anyway, so I think that he'll do well with us. I know what James says about the curse of leaving Bodo Glimt, but somebody's got to break it eventually. I think that, and I know that if you look at Hassan's stats for Hassan's stats for scoring goals, he's not been the greatest, but his dribbles and completions are actually second only to Lamal in Spain. So, you know, if we're going to start, we're using stats, we need to use all the stats. And the Scottish League isn't the Spanish League.
It is not, and I think a lot of people get kind of caught up with those final numbers. And of course, you would like to see him having scored 8, 9, 10 goals and assisting maybe 12 of them. But if he'd done that, I don't think we're in the conversation for him. No. If he's done that in La Liga 2, then your Villarreal's, your Valencia's, your Atletico Madrid's are probably eyeing him up rather than us. But a big thing you need to remember, I think a lot of fans of football generally need to remember, if these are teams that are generally on the back foot and they don't generally score many goals as a team, then you can't expect the wingers to be high scoring. And a similar thing happened, we take it all the way back, when Gary Hooper left us to go to Norwich. Mm-hmm. They signed Ricky Van Wolfswinkel, was it, at the same time? Yes. I think they had somebody else, but they only played one striker and they had 3. And Ricky Van Wolfswinkel was the main guy. So the Hooper played, I think he got about 8 goals that season, but he played as an impact sub. He played bit parts. He wasn't the main guy, and he still scored 8 goals. I think it was 8, maybe 7, but I think it was 8. But when you compare that to a striker of a relegation team in the EPL, most strikers only scored 9 or 10 goals anyway in the relegation teams for the previous year. So to get 7 or 8 for Gary Hooper actually wasn't that bad. Yet people look at just the raw number, the raw stat, and say, well, he couldn't be that good because he only scored 8 goals when he's scoring 20, 22 up here. It's possibly similar for guys like Hassan who are playing in La Liga 2. And let's not pretend that Real Oviedad, or however you say the name, they're not exactly the most energetic and exciting teams. You're not expecting them to blow teams at the wall. La Liga 2 is a very competitive league. Mm-hmm. Who comes up and goes down fluctuates quite rapidly. And when they do come up, they're not going to suddenly be top half of the main division. They're going to be fighting relegation again. That's just the way that goes there. The way it goes in most leagues. So I'm not as put off about his lack of numbers, so long as you say, the stats for his dribbling, taking on a man, can he do something with the ball? We can work on the other side of it because he will get more chances with us. It's just so long as he can actually do something more with the ball than the likes of Tineke, Balikwisha or Yang even, that he actually can then add those numbers. So long as he does add them at Celtic, he should be all right then. Gavin, we've not heard from you for a wee while on players coming in. Those guys, I think the next name on the list was Mika Baur, the German midfielder. Oh. That's broken today, just a few hours ago, so I don't imagine many people have seen much about this guy yet. It was a bit kind of left field, out the blue sort of thing. But his stats, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, is something like 163 games at the age of just turned 22. That's probably looking at about 40 to 50 games for the last 3 seasons, being 19, 20, 21 years. So I think that's a good level of experience. a good level of exposure. He's 29 goals and 19 assists from a midfield perspective. Slightly attacking minded for the midfield, slightly left-sided. I believe he can use both feet from what I understand, and reading a little bits off Twitter from the likes of Derek Ray. I believe you've already looked into him ever so slightly. Is this somebody who could excite you? Are you looking, do you think he's a McGregor replacement perhaps, or an Engels replacement?
Maybe not so much a McGregor replacement. I watched a 4-minute clip of the guy before we went live, and funnily enough, the clip was only prepared an hour before I watched it by a Celtic fan. Like that "Welcome to Celtic," the guy in a hoop shirt. But look, it's difficult to form an opinion over a 4-minute clip. However, I was able to form an opinion over Balikwisha from his highlight reel, and he looked stinking, and he turned out to be stinking. Look, so this guy, 22 years old. Firstly, he's a German under-21 international. Maybe if he was captain, that might excite little James a little bit more. But yeah, you probably don't get into that position if you're a complete numpty at football. But from the highlight reel that I saw, the guy's got a low centre of gravity. He's got a lot of pace. He looks to be two-footed. He definitely looks to get ahead and link up the play. He looks, mildly exciting, if you can use that phrase. I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. I don't know what the price is going to be, whether it's 2 million or 5 million or something like that. The boy does look like he's got something. Again, it's just a highlight reel. But if you were to compare him over somebody like Balikwisha, you would take this boy every day of the week. But this boy, I'll just say, he definitely looks to be a central midfielder. So he's not a winger. So it looks like maybe a kind of like a Juninho type, if you can say that. But we'll wait and see.
I've got him in my head, and this is based off nothing at all other than, as you say, a couple of minute clips I've seen today, and also reading his position and stats. I've got him as a kind of Hatate replacement in my head. And that way we've had Rogic, then O'Reilly, and now Nygren, who play that. Rogic definitely obviously more of a number 10 than the other two, but that central midfielder who attack and slightly go to the right side. In my head, I've got this guy as the left side version of that. So instead of focusing on all the attack down the right side from him, he'd be the left-sided version of a Matt O'Reilly. By all means, not comparing him quality-wise to Matt O'Reilly, but just in my head, that's kind of where I've got him. The video that I saw of him, not a lot, mind you, but it looked like I don't know if it's him or if it was the team, the games that he was playing, but there's a lot of ping ball kind of football happening. The balls were bouncing off each other. He was kind of like in about it and a little bit energetic, but I don't know if he was fully in control of the ball at times, but maybe that was just more the level of football overall for the games that were being played. Young James, if we looked at Mika Baur, I think I'm going to say next one on the list, I think the next position out of the kind of 4 or 5 that were rumoured to be close to being completed this week as a goalkeeper, I can only assume is your Croatian boy from Spain, from La Liga 2 as well as your Dinko, the Croatian goalkeeper. Would that be a position that you're looking to fill quite prominently? Would somebody of Dinko's caliber stature suit you? Are you happy with Sinisalo? How do you see the keeper position?
I think we definitely need a number one. I think I've said on here before, I see Sinisalo kind of similar to the way I've seen Zaluska. He's a great number 2, and he'll do your turn if he comes in, but I just don't fancy him as a number 1 for the long term, at least yet. He's still obviously young for a goalie. So I'd be looking to fill that position. In terms of the names that's been mentioned, I know the American guy as well, is it Freeze or whatever has been mentioned as well. I honestly couldn't tell you the first thing about any of them because it's just silly, it just grind you down. Used to be exciting, you'd get all the rumours and you'd go and you'd have a look at who you fancied to come in and who looked rotten. And I just think, what's the point? I'll start doing that as soon as they've got the green and white scarf above their head at Parkhead, and it's definitely confirmed because there's been too much recently, obviously, that's fell through. Not even just this windy, even going back to previous windies. So But in terms of the positions that need filled, definitely I'd be signing a new number one. But in terms of the individuals it's linked, I couldn't tell you the first thing about them, or if they're good with their feet and all the rest of it. I've not got a clue.
Order James, goalkeeper then. Is that the name you would have had in your mind with goalkeeper being in a position, or would you have been looking at somebody else?
So I don't disagree with James, but it's the last signing I would make. If we were to go, Duran gives me the fear. After seeing that's my fear is Duran. It's not so much Sinisalo. I think that he has his moments, but I'm trying. How many did he sell last season when he came in? The season before, when he was in for Schmeichel, when Schmeichel was injured, how many did he sell? Not many. I wouldn't have that much of a problem with Sinisalo starting. I wouldn't have that much of a problem. Obviously, if we're going to sign somebody that's, that's a massive upgrade, then that obviously I'll take that. But my main worry is doing that. He's nowhere near good. He's nowhere near good enough. Bringing him back was a joke. I would have kept Bain, and that's how bad I think Duran is. I would rather have had Bain as my number two. McLaughlin, 60-40. I think he's got a howler in him, but he didn't cost us anything. We didn't drop any points last year because of him. There was a couple of shots that he maybe could have done a bit better. I'm thinking of the Hibs goal after the split, where he came out and the Shankland goal in the last game of the season, where he kind of came out and flapped at it. But I can't really think it cost us really badly. But like I say, if somebody was to come in that was a massive upgrade on Sinisalo, then it's a no-brainer. You put him back as the number two. But if not, we definitely need a number two, because you're an injury away for Duran starting, and he's a disaster. He's a disaster. So I think we need Hogh. We need another striker. We need midfield. But as we were saying before we come on, that's what we need right now. If we'll start losing other players, if we start losing players, if other players start getting bought, then we need to be replacing them as well. So if the 4 or 5 that kind of been rumoured in the past 20 hours or something like that, if we manage to sign all of them, that's great. But if Engels goes, then we need to get a replacement for Engels. If Ngrin goes, we need to get a replacement for Ngrin. You look at the players that have left, that were on the wage bill last year, that are now on the wage bill, that are off the wage bill. We've lost about 13 players. We need to be bringing players in, because the squad was already threadbare, and we need to be bringing players in. I'm all for developing youth, but I think youth should be developed by getting sent out on loan to clubs in order to be getting game time. It's not about getting 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, the odd game. You develop by playing week in, week out. So I'm all about the youth, but we need to be bringing them and loaning them out and getting them game time other places. I seen a cracking article, and it was how the team that Ralston, James, broke through in, the youth team that Ralston broke through in, that youth team, all 11 of them made it as football players. Calvin Miller was there, and all of them made it as professional football players. And that was because at that time we were sending players out on loan all the time. Now, they might not have made it at Celtic, but they all made it as football players. The odd careers, Stirling Albion and Scunthorpe, and they all had proper football careers. 8 of them are still playing today, and that was because we were loaning them out and we were using the loan system properly to get players game time. I think that's something that we've not done for a long time. I think that's something that we need to get back for, because we need to bring youth through. Sorry, that was a bit of a rumble.
Not at all sorry about that. It's a great point. It's something that obviously I speak a lot about is the need to bring the youth through, especially being able to coach and develop them properly. Because it's one thing saying, guys like Ben Gannon Dokes and you set up for, Rocco Vata or Karamoko Dembele, whoever it is. It's already saying, oh, these guys look good. Give them one chance. You go, maybe not ready to overtake, Jimmy Forrest or Jota. Of course not. And then you just pump them back to the Beast team or the under 18s, whatever it is. You have to progress them in some way. If you're not going to coach and develop them yourselves and bleed them into your own team, you have to send them out to an adequate club for a loan spell. Again, I have to emphasise adequate club, and this is no disrespect, but if you keep sending them to the likes of Greenock Morton, you're going to end up with Greenock Morton level players. If you start sending them out to maybe a Kilmarnock, an Aberdeen or Motherwell, you might get a Christopher Ayer, Ryan Christie or Stephen Welsh, and that's not to say Stephen Welsh is the answer to our prayers, but Stephen Welsh had a good season last year and arguably should have been in that World Cup squad if you talk to people about it over guys like Grant Hanley. So putting them out on loan at a better age than Stephen Welsh went, you start to see a bit more development from him. And Anthony Ralston, as much as he is shit, and I don't want to see him as a starting Celtic fullback, his loan spells to the likes of St Johnstone did him the world of good compared to sending players out to Greenock Morton or United. There was a comment, I think it was from Paddy, that you brought up, Gavin, about Radek Vitek, whatever his fucking name is. He's a Czech Republic goalkeeper who plays for Man United, but he's been out on loan to a couple of places. He is 22, which I believe might be the same age as Sinisal. Maybe Sinisal's 23. Is that for the goalkeeper position, Gavin? Is that the profile that you would go for as well? Maybe even this guy on loan with an option to buy, perhaps, to compete with Sinisalo, or would you? I mean, I can't see Celtic ever going out and signing a 26, 27-year-old ready-made first-team goalkeeper because it's going to cost you 10, 12, 13 million probably to go out and sign these players from clubs that would be doing well. But at the same time, would you go down the line of your Joe Harts or your Castor Schmeichels again, who, in my opinion, would look to be first-team players, and that would stifle Sinisalo? Or would you go for this guy and two players who are probably on an even keel, duke it out and see which one rises to the top?
Well, it's a good question, and talking about the profile of a goalkeeper, and also kind of touching on what James said. Well, he said that he'd be open to bringing in a new goalkeeper, but he doesn't think it's a priority position. I totally get that, and we are far too reactive to things. So at the moment, we're too busy replacing the people who are leaving us, and just try to kind of maintain, keep an even keel. Whereas I think that if we went out and bought a goalkeeper, that would be an aggressive move and that would be proactive. I think that Sinisalo did not disgrace himself last season. He should have been in earlier than what he was. But whenever he came in over the whole, he did impress. But he didn't impress me enough to say, that's my keeper, that's my number one guy for next season. And I see comments and people saying, give him a full season and see what it's like. But we need to win again next season. We can't be taking chances with question marks. And for me, he is still a bit of a question mark. Traditionally, the profile of goalkeeper that I like is someone who's got personality, someone who's big enough, commanding the box, and well, obviously the full package if you can get that. A Boric, a Fraser Forster, they are few and far between for Celtic. I always think historically, and very annoyingly, the Huns have always managed to get better goalkeepers than what we've had in my lifetime, going back to in my memory anyway, going back to the early 90s. I don't think Celtic have been able to replicate that. I don't know if Celtic just, for some reason, don't prioritise it enough. But if you start off with a really good, strong core at the back, then I think that wins your leagues. And I would go for a good goalkeeper. I would spend a half decent money on it, but only if the right candidate was there. I don't want to be taking punts, but I want someone with personality, who plays with authority, who maybe has got that bit of crazy in him. I like Sinisalo, but he's just a nice guy. He's not a crazy guy.
You need that kind of Arthur Borch craziness just to somebody who's going to command the
I
area.
want,
and
I want
give a shit,
somebody
bit
who
of character to it.
I want somebody.
Aye.
I want somebody who shouts at his defence. I want a proper vocal goalkeeper, where everybody knows what their jobs are and they're confident with him, and between the sticks. That's what I want. Sinisalo, I don't know if he's assertive enough yet. He might have a great season though, and prove me wrong, but that's what I
hope he
would
does.
be proactive and buy a goalkeeper.
When you look at the defence he was playing behind last season for the majority of the time, though, I think so. I don't want to sound like I'm wedded to the idea of keeping Sinisalo. I'm not, right. I'm not. I just believe that it's hard enough for us to get players over the line. If we're going, it'll be finite. I just think that it's not the first sign I would make. Like I say, I'm not wedded to him, but I think that he done all right. He never made him. He didn't, as you said, he didn't disgrace himself. You know, Boric was mental, and I agree with you that historically the Huns have set up for the back, and historically we've set up for the front. So the first things we would be buying would be exciting wingers and strikers that will score goals. And although last season we kind of didn't do any of it, it was just like it was like somebody was throwing stickers at a Panini sticker book, and they were throwing darts at a Panini sticker book for our signings. They were shocking. But I think that we need to we need players in, we need quality in. I think I said this before the end of the last season. We need quality players in. Fillers are no good. Having numbers is no good. I think that's what Martin O'Neill ended up going for. Numbers so that he could switch things up and bring, because I think we all said last that he basically had a team of impact subs. So he was starting teams and then letting them wear down the opposition and then bringing on impact subs all the place to try and move it on. I think it was I thought it was all about numbers last year. The thought of Adamu coming on again in another game. Remember he came on and was at the cup game for 20 minutes and he looked like a competition winner that had somebody else's boots on their own feet. That's how bad he looked. It was probably the worst performance of a professional football player that I've ever seen in my life. And he got a winner's medal. Braga and Devlin and Shanklin, do you remember that? Adamu got a double last year.
Which is absolutely mental. We don't win that double without his goal, which is also
Exactly.
absolutely fucking mental. But I think that's more because we didn't score enough goals as a whole that you end up with guys like Adamu and even Oxlade-Chamberlain's goal. You don't win the league with those wins because the league was that fucking tight and that close, and our goal scoring prowess was so fucking weak. I was wanting maybe to talk about the midfield, but then I'm remembering that we discussed the midfield and the need for change of that quite in depth at the end of last season. And I think all four of us can sit here and say that all six or so of the midfielders are potentially going to leave and or could just fuck off. So you could definitely need a whole new midfield. So without going on to that one just now, because we covered it quite a lot last time, I want to touch on the defence because a little bit of movement on the way out has happened at defence. The biggest name going out, obviously, is Mike Narovski's now gone to Lens, the second best team in France just now. So to me, he can't be that fucking shite. But that does leave us with, along with obviously Stephen Welsh leaving, Carter Vickers and Murray for the technically right-sided of the defence, and Scales and Thrusty on the left side. Young James, bring it to you and go around the guys again. Is that enough? What would you want to bring in? Would you be satisfied with a sort of loan to buy option of a good young centre-back? Not your Ben Arthurs, but somebody who's maybe got a bit more to him.
I think that should have been up there, kind of on the list of priorities as well. But I think that it needs to be better. I think Scales, we've said it for often enough, and I know he sometimes gets a hard time at, but we need to we need to try and get better than Liam Scales in there. Cameron Carter-Vickers has also got a question mark over him in terms of his fitness. Hopefully, obviously, he can stay fit this time, but obviously he's kind of struggled with that in recent seasons. Austin Trusty is a weird one because in games where it's back to the wall, he'd be the first name on the team sheet for me. But then in your kind of bog standard games where domestically we're going to dominate, he can be a bit of a liability at times. I actually liked Nawrocki. I thought he was decent anytime he played. I don't think he ever let us down. And I would, to be honest with you, I'd probably like to have seen him get a chance in pre-season at least, just to see what he can do. But Martin O'Neill's comments doesn't send out much hope that we are going to look to strengthen at centre back. And obviously, I've seen the rumours as well about Benjamin Arthur coming back up the road, which again, I just think is totally pointless. I don't think he was great last year. I think he was all right. I don't think he played a forward pass in any of the games that he played. So I wouldn't be in a rush to bring him back. The same, I wouldn't have been in a rush to bring back, to be honest with you, probably any of the loan signings, maybe with the exception of Sirachi, but I would include Ian Acho in that, Oxlade Chamberlain. I wouldn't have been in a rush to bring any of these guys back. I don't know. See, to be honest with you, see with Araujo, I think he was good, but I think there was games where he had kind of dodgy moments. I think he got a bit of leeway with the support, obviously because his actions and stuff and the kind of bravado that came with it, and it was brilliant. But I would take him back. I'd take him back and I'd take Sirachi back. But the rest of them, I don't think are a great miss. But I would absolutely, me personally, I'd be looking to strengthen at centre back. I'd maybe be looking to ship possibly Trusty out to get somebody else in to actually spend a bit of money for a kind of first team regular to come in. And then when you get that, you can maybe look at bringing in a loan to buy as well. But I don't know. I just feel as if we need something more. Exactly. Carter-Vickers, as good as he's been, he's no longer reliable for us. And Scales, again, probably the same as well. As good as he's been, he's just always got that question mark over his head simply because it's Liam Scales. So I'd like to get somebody in there anyway. And besides, Liam Scales is now our backup left back and our first choice left back, whilst Tierney's at the World Cup. So we definitely need a centre half.
Or left back, one of the two.
I will.
Or both. Carter-Vickers, he technically is still injured according to the Transfer Market website. I just want to actually come on here and check and see if I can find quickly how many games he actually played last season, because I'm sure that Carter-Vickers played more games last season than I fucking thought he did when I looked at this previously. Because I felt like Carter-Vickers last year was out for the majority, if not all the season. It felt like we just never saw him at all. No, I was right. It was only 13.
It was roughly the same time as Alistair Johnson went out.
It felt like
he done his Achilles roughly the same. It was a week or two after Alistair Johnson done his.
Yeah, it looks like mid to the second half of October that was him done.
Aye.
And he's judging by Transfer Market alone, he didn't feature obviously at all, and it looks like he's still technically injured, although clearly not because he has been on the pitch in the friendlies. For me, defensive wise, yeah, James, you're saying about deals I would get rid of to do that with. I think given a chance, fundamentally, Trusty is a better option at centre back than Scales. So I'd rather see Scales be the one, and that's not to give Scales a disservice because he has been a good servant to the club. He does do well, and a lot like Ralston before him, and even Greg Taylor. He gives his all, and you can't fault him for that. But he's just, for me, not the quality that we need if you want to take European football serious. So he'd be the one I would move on in favour of a proper centre-back, like a proper starting centre-back. But also, I think we need that fifth option, if not to kind of move Dane Murray down to fifth choice, because Dane Murray is, the backup option to Carter-Vickers is a big concern for me. Gavin, how do you see the back line overall? You can take in the full back options as well. Do you see major work needing to be done?
Yeah, well, I agree with James that with fullback we definitely need to strengthen. We're an injury away. But by the way, can I just say, hold my hands up, Tierney made it through the season without any major injuries, and well done to him, because I was one of the first ones, not to write him off, but to really express my anxiety over him lasting a season. Tierney did really, really well. However, it's not to say that there might be an injury that comes to Tierney this season, or it could come to Alistair Johnson. Alistair Johnson might go, but assuming that Alistair Johnson stays, we need better than the backup we've got, and we keep saying that about Anthony Ralston. So Anthony Ralston and Donovan. I think Donovan has got athleticism over Ralston, but Donovan, there wasn't enough glimpses of Donovan whenever he did play last season to say, yeah, he could maybe be a future starter for Celtic. I would put Donovan out on loan, and if that means Ralston at full back and reserve, I would rather play Ralston over Donovan, but that's still you're between a rock and a hard place. Ideally, we would strengthen. And again, for a left back, we need somebody to help out with Kieran Tierney. Sirachi was a brilliant deputy for Kieran Tierney, and he was probably unlucky to not get more game time. But that's the problems that you want to have. Let's put ourselves back into that position. In terms of the centre backs, well, we've had these centre backs now for quite a while. Trusty's already been with us now for 2 years, hasn't he? 6 million for Sheffield United. We've had Scales now, who I think Scales has been with us. He's played with us for 3 seasons. I know that he had time with Aberdeen on loan, but I think he's played 3 solid seasons with us, unless I'm mistaken. And Cameron
I think he might be on to 4 now.
It could be. And Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think he's been with us for a minimum of 4 years now.
5.
2 under Postecoglou, 2 under Brendan Rodgers, and 1 under Martin O'Neill there. So he's been with us for 5 years. I don't think it's a bad idea to freshen up, and I share the same concerns as Smell the Glove and James about Cameron Carter-Vickers. Some people are just expecting him to walk back into the team and be the same kind of rock that he has been. But again, I'm just maybe a wee bit pessimistic. I think you should plan for the worst, prepare for the worst, and it's not a bad idea just to bring in somebody new, maybe a bit younger, somebody who's got a little bit different. None of our, if we're being honest, none of our centre backs have got the ability to take the ball and force somebody to come out and press them. But Liam Scales will kind of trundle out with the ball and he'll stop and he'll look left, right. Eventually he'll make a pass after 10 seconds, and at that point the move is broken down. But someone like Christopher Ayer, who was really good at that, obviously Virgil van Dijk was very good at that, but he was a calibre above anything that we've seen. I would bring in somebody who's got something different to the centre backs that we've got. Can bring the ball out, distribute a pass, and force somebody to come out to break away from the midfield. Frees up options for us. That's what I would like to do. I don't want to continue playing with the 3 centre backs we've got. And as for Dane Murray, get him to fuck, man. He's no longer a young prospect. What is he, about 23 now? Probably. Dane Murray is not going to be a future Celtic player. He's not going to be a mainstay. No. So that's where I'm at, centre back. I want to freshen it. Bring in somebody just for competition.
Just looking at, I fully agree with you there. Just looking at left back and Kieran Tierney there on, again, his stats and how many games he's played. He only missed, or rather, he only didn't feature in 6 games last season, which is actually really impressive when you consider the, as you said, Gavin, the kind of fear that we had that he would probably miss half the season. And when you think about how much game time Sirachi actually got as well, and seemingly he was happy to be coming back to Celtic if he could, then there's good arguments that you can go out and get a decent backup option at a good age that is willing to play that nice rotation. And I say Tierney only missed 6 games. Well, didn't feature in 6 games. That's not to say he started them all. Obviously, Sirachi started a few as well, but there's enough games in a season to rotate 2 good level players in that position. So we shouldn't settle for Montgomery. We shouldn't settle for Ralston, and we shouldn't settle for Dane Murray. As much as I'm a big advocate of trying to give youth a chance, these are guys who are 23, 24, 28. I mean, Anthony Ralston is literally due a fucking testimonial now. That gets to a point where you have to accept and admit that some youth talent isn't going to be good enough. Now, Anthony Ralston back in the day was good enough as a good backup, but it's about time you remove him from the equation and either give Donovan the chance or bring in somebody else as a good, competent backup to Alistair Johnson, the same way we had Srirachi and KT last year, and get Donovan out on that loan that we were talking about earlier, that's not to a Green and Morton, but is actually to a Motherwell or Hibs or somebody where he'll play regular games. You'll get 30, 40 games and play at a good competitive level. I'm going to try and tidy it up a little bit. But James, I want to bring back to you, older James. You mentioned before we went live, you had info of some kind that we're actually looking at 5 players potentially on the cusp of being signed. I think we've covered 3 names. I've heavily suggested that one of them would be a goalkeeper. Who do you reckon the 5th person is, or at least the 5th position?
So it's just a midfield. Hold on a second. This looks really rude because I'm reading my phone.
I've been reading my second screen all podcast, don't worry. Because I think we're looking at, was it Casper Hogh, Hassan, so that's your striker,
Hassan, right? The midfielder Baur.
Yep.
I can't remember the other 2. So how it was described to me, I apologise. The German, an Egyptian, Hogh, a goalkeeper, and somebody else. And I can't find the chat. I can't find it in the chat.
Yeah, that's kind of what I heard as well. But I was not sure in the 5th one. You see the Egyptian or the Egyptian.
The Egyptian. That was how it was worded in the chat. The Egyptian, a German. The Egyptian, a German, Hogh, a goalkeeper, and somebody else. I'm trolling my chat now to see if I can find it again.
Quite right. If I'm right in saying, were we not linked with another Egyptian this one?
He's just agreed a deal with somebody else, or it was kind of part way to doing it anyway. I can't remember who it was either.
Let's hope that wasn't the one that Celtic were hoping to get done. Gavin, overall, if we were to get these, let's say 3 or 4, Hogh, Hassan, and Mika Baur in this week, plus maybe 1 or 2 of the other ones that was kind of alluding to, would you be happy with the week's kind of transfer if that was to unfold in isolation this week?
Yeah, that's exactly the word I was going to use, in isolation. In isolation, that looks good, and I would feel a wee bit better. But then if you think about if Engels does go, and if Alistair Johnson goes, then
and Grin,
especially Alistair Johnson, he's one of our best players. Alistair Johnson, you saw him in the World Cup, how good he was. Can't understate the impact that he made in the split. Engels, I'm just not too sure about the guy. So if he goes, we get money, of course, but then we need to replace it as well. So what you're saying, in isolation, if we get those players, brilliant. But then you need to anticipate the departures, and we need to be really, really quick on our feet. So we need to have more than a few irons in the fire for this.
Would you be happy, anybody, if Alistair Johnson was to leave for, let's say, 14 million, just random number plucked at my arse there? Would you be happy enough to spend 8 million bringing in Julian Araujo and then having Ralston as a backup? Or would you guys look, I know we were alluding to maybe he wasn't as good as Alistair Johnson, but would he be acceptable for the season? If he was your number 1 starter, would you still look for somebody better?
Can I just say that, well, Alistair Johnson, I think athletically, he's far better than Araujo. Araujo was very good with the ball at his feet. I thought he was a good technical operator, and I liked his personality as well. Alistair Johnson, the way that he covers from box to box, the way that he gets down that flank, he never looks tired. He's got such an engine on him. I think Alistair Johnson is possibly the greatest right back that I've seen since I've been able to appreciate football at Celtic. he's definitely one of the best right backs, if not the best right back that I've seen for Celtic. And 14 million, yeah, the Celtic board would take that money, but
that's just literally just an about mass. I think he's worth more than that, but I just have a feeling we won't break 20.
And again, if he wants to go, then it's so difficult to keep him there. He's done brilliantly for Celtic, and arguably, yeah, he's earned his move. I know that he's under contract, but you know what it's like keeping players against their will. I wouldn't want to see him go, but if he does want to go, then you know it's almost out of our hands.
It almost feels like smelling glove. You've had it, Eric from Trinity Tim's mentioned 4 last night from a journalist, a German, Hassan, Hogh, and a goalkeeper. So there's a 5th one. It almost feels like there must be some sort of truth to this. This must be where we're at. Why we've made the sudden, pull the finger out your arse and get on with it. I think we can allude to stipulations. Maybe Martin O'Neill's made. Maybe he's been showing behind the scenes his anger and whatnot. But so long as we do something this week, we get 3 out of these 4 or 5, I think I'd be content with the week in isolation. But as we said to Paddy in the group chat earlier on, this is the start because we've left it so late. This is us starting. But this should have been the start 4 weeks ago. We should have been getting these kind of names and these guys in. It shouldn't be happening now. Older James, you found that email, that message?
Yeah. Hogh, the Egyptian, a goalie, a German, but no names for the last 2 is what I was given.
The Egyptian and a goalie?
Aye. Hogh, the Egyptian, a goalie, a German, but no names for the last 2.
Interesting. Yeah. Only mentioned 4, not 5. I'm not sure. I mean, I hope it's 5. Let's be honest. Right, guys, it's been an hour and 16 minutes. I'm looking at the time coming up for 8:30. I don't want to keep us much longer than this on our return. Anybody want to cover anything else that's not been covered so far? In fact, young James, how did you enjoy the World Cup?
It was all right. I felt it maybe went on a wee bit too long, to be honest. Obviously, with the amount of
an
games.
extra round of game there, yeah.
Aye, the amount of games, the amount of teams, but I enjoyed it. The final was one of the worst games I think I've ever seen in my life, right enough. But apart from that, the England game, the 3rd place game was really good, as much as that pains me to say. But there was a few good games in it. There was a few stinkers. I wouldn't say it's one of the best ever, but I've seen folks saying it's one of the worst. But I think that's just me ready with everything surrounding it. But in terms of the actual football played, it was all right. Aye.
I'm chalking that 3rd place game down to nothing to play for. France first half, nothing to play for. Couldn't get an arse. They're probably checked out because you have to remember these guys are only getting 3 weeks off between now and the start of their seasons. So I'd imagine a lot of the French players in the first half were probably just on the holiday, and then almost professional pride kicked in the second half to pull it back. Whereas England probably gave it a wee bit more, trying to achieve the best possible finish that they could. So fair fucks to England in that sense, but glad they didn't get to the final. Guys, anything else to cover? I'm just about to wrap us up then.
I'm good.
We all look awkwardly at each other.
No, good hosting, by the way. It's good to be back. You've done well, McGinty.
Thank you.
Aye. I don't know when we'll be back on, but hopefully we'll do a few
next
more
week, hopefully.
Episodes. Hopefully, if there's news, aye.
Well, hopefully, at least 3. At least one of the 5 is signed by then. That would probably be good going. Guys, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday Tic Talk on the Jungle Gyms podcast. Some good numbers and good chat in the comments. I know we've been off for a few weeks, but this is us back in the new season. Hopefully some more positivity going forward, and we'll see you all next week. Heal, heal.